Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And another week of NFL football is in the books. We got a lot of games to cover, so we're going to waste absolutely no time and jump right into it. Tim, are you ready to go?
Get going. Lightning round. Let's run it.
I I don't know about lightning round. It's never
Yeah, you can
lightning
only
round
you
with
can only do
us.
so much with these, but
Yeah,
we'll do our best.
regardless, week 2 of the NFL is done and we're going to run through all the games starting with Thursday night football, the Vikings and the Eagles. The Eagles defending their home turf via the help of the run game, winning 34-28. The real star of the show was DeAndre Swift. After getting little to no usage in week 1, he absolutely exploded. 26 attempts, 175 yards, and a touchdown.
You went crazy.
He absolutely went nuts. On the other side, the Vikings did what the Vikings do in passing the ball a lot. Kirk Cousins, 31-44, 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. He had a good day. Justin Jefferson continued on his historic tear, 159 yards receiving, 11 catches on 13 targets. And TJ Hawkinson himself even got involved with 2 touchdowns. It's kind of funny to see the Minnesota Vikings losing these one-score games rather than winning them because
Could we see them go 0-11 in one-score games? It would be poetic
I
justice.
oh my goodness, not only would it be a poetic justice, it would have to be statistical marvels that we would make documentaries about because the odds of that are so statistically improbable, it's insane. So I don't think it happens, but regardless, I think this is more about the Vikings going to 0-2 rather than the Eagles going to 2-0 because the Eagles kind of did the same thing they did last week where it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a
Find a way to win.
well-played game. Yeah, exactly. You play to win the game. It doesn't matter whether it's by 20 or 3. As long as you get the job done and escape with the W, that's really all that matters. But, I remember us saying about the Vikings that, they might not be very good. That is a real possibility, and they find
For
themselves
sure.
after 2 weeks in the bottom of the NFC North. So, Tim, what are you gonna make of this?
For the Vikings, I think Vikings fans and maybe the organization is starting to regret letting Dalvin Cook go. Because right now, Alexander Madison is not really looking like that guy. And because they're one dimensional, now that's taken away from a lot of their offensive effectiveness. Granted, Kirk Cousins still threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. But when you have absolutely no run game, you're forced to. And now defenses know what to cue in on, and it's not going to get any easier for them going forward unless they can start running the ball. I personally was like, Kirk played well in primetime. This is a miracle. Well, they still lost, but
Yeah,
I mean,
not
good
not
things
great
to
for
see.
Kirk's primetime record, but he played well enough.
No, he did pretty much exactly what he needed to. Justin Jefferson fumbling on the goal line definitely hurt. Obviously he's been playing like he has. Still kind of surprising that he hasn't found the end zone yet this season, though. Despite having tons of receptions and yards, great to see Hawkinson get going and actually find pay dirt twice there for the Eagles. I was kind of astonished by DeAndre Swift's performance in general. I mean, we know that offensive line is good, but I was very surprised at how absolutely utterly dominant they were against the Vikings D line in that second half, especially. They just broke them down, and then once again they love their QB sneak. Jalen Hurts gets his 2 touchdowns on the ground. But they just did what they needed to do. Devonta Smith had an absolutely great game, but again, I almost want to say that 4 for 131 was far more about the Vikings' defensive woes than it was about the Eagles making that great of offense. But again, close game. It was super entertaining. I mean, you've got 62 points scored total, so it was an exciting game to watch.
Math.
But Vikings have a lot to look at if they want to start trying to win football games.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction for Vikings Twitter to go tank for Caleb Williams because, not
Yeah,
quite DEFCON 1 like some other
no,
teams in the NFC North. But I do want to talk about their defense. We knew it wasn't going to be very good, but the way that the
they're
Eagles
looking
offensive
really
line
bad.
was able to thoroughly dominate them, not
See,
just
and
at the
I
defensive
thought the
line, but like
Vikings, I
all 3 levels.
and
Because
I thought the Vikings defense was going to have the most struggles in the secondary, but their D line looked decimated.
well, they lost most of their free agents on the
Yeah,
defensive line. You talk about like Dalvin Tomlinson, the run stopper in the middle, that's not there anymore. He's in Cleveland. Za'Darius Smith off the edge, also in Cleveland. And like Eric Kendricks is in Los Angeles. He's the defensive captain, the Mike linebacker that you really need. I mean, firing Ed Donatel was objectively the correct move at the end of last season. Bringing
They
in
sure
Brian Flores was, again, the right personnel guy. He has a
they're
fantastic
just not
track
giving him
record.
any
But
help.
yeah, Brian Flores
You
is
can
not a
only do
miracle
so
worker.
much with a complete utter lack of talent on the defensive side of the ball.
Exactly. And I think the Vikings are going to have to fix it fast because they're going to play another high octane offense in the Los Angeles Chargers. So it just doesn't get any easier moving
Another team
forward.
that has dropped their first 2 games that is going to be looking for a big bounce back. So their road does not get easier from here.
And on the other side, the Philadelphia Eagles travel to Tampa Bay for another primetime game. They get about the longest rest in between 2 weeks that you can, going to Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football. But we got more games to cover, so let's jump to Atlanta, where the Green Bay Packers, we had it
What a
until we
turnaround.
didn't. Oh, geez. A 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, absolutely squandered because we can't stop Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson worth a damn. A 24-25 loss. And I mean, if you're a Packers fan, at least for me, I was sick the rest of the day. It did not sit right with me, and not for the reasons that you would expect.
Had that one.
We absolutely did. First, I'm going to talk about the offense because the offense played really well. 24 points in 3 quarters, missing Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, and for the second half, Elshon Jenkins. That's huge. Jordan Love, he kept the ball clean, didn't turn it over, threw for 3 touchdowns again, looked pretty sharp doing it. Now, the fourth quarter, okay, fine. Some miscommunications.
Where the wheels started falling off a bit, yeah.
Granted, it's his 3rd career start. Come on. Like, let's give the guy a little bit of slack. We knew there was going to be some growing pains, especially with your 4 best offensive players out. Throwing the ball to Jaden Reed and Dontavion Wicks, who both looked really good. I think he did a fine job. Where the struggles become a little bit more questionable is A.J. Dillon. We expected him to do a little bit better, but he didn't. 15 carries, 55 yards.
Couldn't get anything started on the ground, and that certainly does not help when you're trying to maintain a lead.
Yeah, and part of it was missing Bakhtiari and Jenkins. The holes just weren't what they used to. Royce Newman filling in for Jenkins was not good. We need to give Sean Ryan his snaps ASAP. But just in general, like A.J. Dillon tripping over himself on 3rd and short. And the fourth down...
Let's not get us started about Jordan Love's
the quarterback sneak. I'm actually not too mad about that because, those mistakes are going to happen to a young quarterback. It's just the most
honestly, those mistakes can
happen
to anybody, but it's just it's
more
literally likely to happen to a young guy.
Yeah, it's literally the most inopportune time, 4th and 1, when you're in that situation for that to happen. And Jordan Love owned up to it. He literally just called the wrong live cadence, and that's what you want to see. Him taking the accountability, because I think that's a big thing.
And realizing his mistake, of course.
Absolutely. But on the other side, I'm so sick and fed up with Joe Barry as defensive coordinator. And God bless Matt LaFleur for defending him and sticking with him, but I am just about fed up because the defense has all this talent, right? You got first rounders, 2 edge rushing first rounders. You got 2 on the defensive line up the middle. You have a first round linebacker, you have 2 first round cornerbacks, you have a first round safety, and you let Bijan Robinson run for 124 yards on 19 carries.
I'm gonna be honest, giving up that type of yards to Bijan, okay. I mean, we know right now that Bijan is obviously he's here. Like he's going to be that guy against more teams than not. What I'm a bit more surprised and a bit taken aback with the Packers defense, you guys made Drake London look good.
Jair Alexander did not have a good game. Jair sucked.
Yeah, and that's what I was bad. That's what I was surprised by the most, because Drake London has been kind of a non-factor in that offense a lot, and even he went for 6 for 67 and a touchdown.
Yeah, Drake London's kind of good though. He gets a lot of.
I'm not saying he's a bad receiver, but it's more of the fact that he has been a non-factor in plenty of games against far worse defenses that I was surprised that the Packers allowed him to do what he did. But in general, I mean, they still balanced the backfield a lot between Algier and Bijan. Bijan was the far more effective one, especially down the stretch. But yeah, it's just too many breakdowns at a lot of individual positions on the defensive side for the Packers. And once the momentum picked up for the Falcons, it was kind of hard to stop that train from rolling.
I will say this: the Falcons are good. they should find themselves as a
They're
playoff
better
team.
than I gave them credit for 100%. Mainly because of how effectively they are running the ball. It's making their passing game easier, and they don't have to pass for 300, 350 plus.
You have these running backs, and you're gonna use them, and you're finding out that, oh my goodness, they are really, really good, but they're not giving up 450 yards of offense good. They're not that good. Like, there's really no excuse for it, and the Packers defense has to fix it, because they're supposed to be the backbone of this team while the offense figures their stuff out. And if Jordan Love is the bright spot and the offense is doing fine, then we're in trouble going forward. So the Packers in week 3 host the Saints at Lambeau, and the Falcons travel to Detroit for their next matchup. But now we're going to flip the script and talk about the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs at home with a 10-point victory, 27-17. The Chicago Bears, this was a must-win game in the eyes of the fans and the organization.
Even just in terms of their overall schedule, this is a game that, even though it's a road game, it's a game you have to win against a team that in large was considered to be, more bottom of the pack in the NFC. Now, granted, Buccaneers aren't really playing bottom of the pack right now.
Look, I'll give Tampa Bay credit. They're getting the job done. Granted, they defeated 2 NFC North teams that aren't looking that great.
Yes,
so I'm not going to overreact, but I did not expect them to start 2-0. So I must give them credit, and I will absolutely give my props to Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Those two look as dynamic as ever. Tampa Bay, you done goofed. You should have paid Mike Evans the money that man deserves. All right, because he's going to go get a bag somewhere, and if you don't pay him soon, he will leave.
And you're going to miss out on them for sure.
Absolutely. Baker's looking like that guy. He's feeling dangerous. He's still fighting like his job's on the line, and I'll be darned if he isn't earning it before our very eyes. He is that leader. He is electric.
As of right now, he is absolutely earning it.
He's talking his talk, and he's leading the Bucs to victories. But
you're starting to get more of the confident Baker back.
Absolutely.
And that's the Baker that can play like, the Heisman player that he was, or the guy that took the Browns to the playoffs.
It's the Baker that doesn't care.
About that. Yeah, exactly.
He just doesn't care. He's going to go. He's going to
run
over people.
Baker that tells defenders to get big.
Yeah, exactly. But, there was another team that played that football game, and I'm not going to say
talk about
much. Yes, Tim, we do. Because it is absolute panic for a team that has lost its last 12 games in a row, dating back to last October. And we're
getting close to not having won a game in a year. With
quarterback, the guy that had a lot of bets on him to win the most valuable player award, looks worse,
they were bold from
arguably, with better weapons. You gave him DJ Moore. DJ Moore went over 100 yards in this game. He had himself a good day. You make some improvements to the offensive line, but Justin Fields gets worse. I've been almost the captain of the Justin Fields sucks bandwagon. I have rode that train for the last, 2.5 years, and when people
since he's been drafted.
Yeah, when people called me nuts, but I don't know. Justin Fields does not look good in any sense. Can't throw, can't process defenses. You can't use the offensive line as a crutch anymore because he's holding the ball way too darn long, doesn't anticipate anything, and is not taking those steps that you want a guy in Justin Fields' position to take. He's not even close to it. So,
in fact, like you said, it's almost as if he's taking steps back.
Are Bears fans overreacting when they're saying it's time to pull the plug on the Justin Fields era?
Yes. I'll flat out say right now, yes. Not that I'm saying that Justin Fields is playing well. He's obviously playing terribly, but you have to understand we're 2 games into the season right now. Like, if you're already pulling the plug on it, you're pretty much just giving up on the fact of even letting him try to work through this season with, obviously there is different faces and whatnot. I'm not trying to defend him because his performance this week was abysmal. I thought his ability to read defenses and make decisions was the worst that I have seen him in his time in the NFL. in terms of the time that he had and the decisions that he made in terms of having multiple open guys and deciding to tuck it and run it into the defensive line.
That's an
I
interesting
was very
decision.
surprised. Yes, I was very surprised, and I was not pleased by it whatsoever. But for Bears fans are just too volatile. I've seen it all too much over, the last, well, pretty much almost as long as I've been a Bears fan. Is when there's a glimmer of hope, you have MVP Fields. When things start going south for 2 weeks, you have sell the team, you have sell your quarterback, you have move on, tank for Caleb Williams, all that type of stuff. So it's just emotions. Bears fans are very high strung because of the fact that we have not had success in a long time. And they're just waiting. They're always jumping at every opportunity. But regardless, it's too early for me to say, completely jump off the Justin Fields train. I want to see what he can do for this year. I'm not ready to say, let's go lose 17 straight games. Let's take him out, run with a backup, yada, yada.
Tyson Bagent.
But I mean, hey, he showed some promise in the preseason there. But in general, I would just like to see, can the improvements be made at this point? You've already lost 2 games against, teams that are obviously with the Packers, but this is a game that, like, I mean, you really should.
You thought it was winnable.
Be more competitive, because I mean it just didn't look very good. So I'm more curious to see of what they can do from here on out, to try to make the improvements. But I mean, later on in the season, if things continue to go poorly, I'm not saying, embrace the tank and like fully embrace the tank and take him out, but you do start having to seriously ask the question of, like, is moving Justin Fields with, his leg talent, having somebody else think that they can, truly make him progress better, would that be more worthwhile than continuing to wait for, the strides to happen?
Well, I will say this. Do I think it's going to get better for Justin Fields? I think anybody who knows me knows what my answer is.
Yeah.
No.
I already know what your answer is going to be, but I mean, I am more on the side of, let's just see.
Yeah.
You're already 0-2. It can't get worse than winless. So,
yeah. However, I think the volatility of Bears fans is like, it's not needed. You're not
they're
helping.
They're too quick to jump on the Super Bowl train.
It's
10
days.
They're too quick to jump on.
10 days from Fields is our savior to, oh my God, burn it with fire, kill it all, burn it to the ground. And like, almost from the outside looking in, I'm like, oh my God, where did the Salem witch trials come from? When did people grab their pitchforks and tiki torches and said, let's burn Soldier Field? I get it. The Bears are bad. Again, no surprise there. But you got to relax a little bit, And I agree. Look, giving the guy some more time is what's needed, but
like, what else can you do right now? You're not going to start launching trades right now, so I think people are just reacting too poorly to it. But I mean, I get the frustration.
You got to stand behind your guy. I mean, for better or worse, it's Justin Fields' team. So
for now, at least,
either you're gonna stand with him or you're gonna stand against him. Pick a side and stick to it.
Yeah.
I know what side I'm on. The Bears fan base has to choose, but
I am on the I simply cannot care enough anymore.
No, dear. I don't know if that. See, there are Bears fans that care too much, and then there are Bears fans that don't, that are just like, this is our existence. This is what it is. Yeah. We're going to be bad for eternity. Woe is me.
It's not even a woe is me. It's just like, we'll see what they're able to do, but I'm certainly not going to get hopeful.
It's a bad time to be a Chicago sports fan. And you know what? For the Bears, it doesn't get any easier, because guess what? No. You got to go play Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead. Oh boy.
That'll go well.
Oh boy, how well is that?
Especially because this defense also has not been looking great either, which has been unfortunate, because I thought they would be at least better than they're showing.
Yeah. And for the Buccaneers, like you said before, they go into Philadelphia to play them on Monday Night Football. Next, we're going to take a trip to Buffalo as the Bills rebounded with an emphatic thumping of the Las Vegas Raiders, 38-10. It's like a tale of two Josh Allens. Josh Allen remembered the football that made
Josh Allen was like, "You said what now?"
Yeah, the second best quarterback in the league. He played almost a perfect game, mistake-free football. 31 of 37, 274 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks.
I'm sorry, James Cook.
Jimmy Cook, 17 carries, 123 yards and no touchdown. That's the heaviest workload and a career rushing high for James Cook. Good on him, dude. Those Cook brothers know how to play some running back, and I'm happy for him. I really am, because I feel like he had this talent all along. He's now beginning to show it as the lead back, and it's a really nice story. The Buffalo receivers got into it as well, with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis really showing out. 7 receptions for Stephon Diggs, 6 catches for Gabe Davis. Jimmy Garoppolo on the other side, 16 of 24, 185 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. The Bills defense kind of made his life rough. So, and Josh Jacobs had absolutely no room to run. None whatsoever. -2 rushing yards.
9 rushes for -2 yards. I get that like game script obviously didn't allow them to run that much, but even to run 9 times and end up with negative yards. Oh, hey,
guess what, Tim?
Lord.
You and I both had 2 more rushing yards than Josh Jacobs did. Woohoo! High five.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll add that one to the resume.
Absolutely. It's also nice to see Davante Adams get back into the end zone, 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown of his own, although he did take a pretty nasty hit and had to go to the blue tent for a fair bit. But there's not much more to say other than Buffalo dominated.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo was the clear better team in this game. The Raiders, I think the big glaring thing for them is their defense just felt like it deflated as the game went on. And as the lead grew, they just died out there. They just didn't even feel like they were trying that hard. So they got some stuff to figure out. But, good for the Bills to see the bounce back game. Josh Allen looked worlds better. And the Raiders, they got to figure out, decent amount about both sides of the ball, what happened that game to make sure that they can, bounce back and actually, try to win one.
We'll see. The Raiders, they play the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and the Bills take a trip to FedEx Field to play the Washington Commanders. Up next, we have an AFC North matchup where the Bengals still haven't quite figured it out. They haven't gotten out of that funk that they were in to start the season, as they lose 27-24 against their arch rival Ravens. I don't know what got into Joe Burrow after signing that massive deal, although he looked better and restraining that calf doesn't help. Yeah. But it's still not enough, especially when T. Higgins now finally got going. 8 receptions, 89 yards, and a pair of touchdowns.
But where the hell is Jamar?
Yeah.
He's been locked up for these first 2 weeks, and that just doesn't seem right. And the Bengals are not going to be the best version of the Bengals if you cannot get Jamar Chase going. I mean, 5 receptions, cool, but only 31 yards? I mean, that's not the type of Jamar Chase that we've seen, even just with, the type of routes and the type of receptions he's getting. I don't know how much of that is, with those 14 attempts that Burrow had that ended up as completions, how many of those, could have been, longer receptions for Jamar. But at the end of the day, I don't know who you want to blame it on, but something's not right about that offensive connection around the ball. They're still not running the ball that well. You get a little bit better today with, or in that game with Joe Mixon, 13 carries for 59 yards. So he averaged 4.5. But overall, the Bengals are known for their receiving core and their passing game, and their passing game is just they're not doing it right now. Yeah, on the flip side of the ball for the Ravens, good to see Lamar Jackson get back to.
He played well. He played really well, and he made some big time throws down the stretch, especially that ball to Zay Flowers in traffic. And I saw that ball, and I was like, "Who said Lamar Jackson can't throw?" No, he's developed into quite the passer in the NFL. A lot closer to MVP Lamar Jackson. Not there yet, but
we're definitely not back there.
No. That is not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that Lamar Jackson did play well enough without his top running back and made enough plays to win the game.
Honestly, at this point, it feels like the Ravens are just perennially without their top running back. So this is just what they're used to playing with. I definitely can tell, though, that it was good for them to get Mark Andrews back and get him back involved. 5 receptions, 45 yards, and he found the end zone on one of those. So we know how much the Ravens like using their tight ends. They're going to be playing their best football when they have Mark Andrews in.
Absolutely. The Ravens will host the Colts in week 3. And the Bengals, they're going to be under the lights Monday Night Football at home against the Rams. So what better time to turn it around than a week from the time we're filming this? We'll see what happens there. Our next game we got is the Seahawks and the Lions in an overtime thriller. It was a shootout, but then Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett had enough, and they decided to walk it off. And I don't know what it is about the Seahawks, but the Lions can't beat them. The Lions just cannot.
Especially not in overtime games.
Out Seattle for whatever reason. It doesn't matter that Jared Goff had a pretty solid day because Geno Smith matched it. And Amon-Ra St. Brown going for the century doesn't really matter when you have the duo of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett doing what we are accustomed to see them doing. So I think it was a really good game from start to finish. You have two teams that are playoff hopefuls. That is it becoming sort of a rivalry? I'm not sure.
Oh.
Well,
it's certainly becoming. I said I don't know, but it's certainly becoming to a game to watch every time you see them play, because not only is it always
this is how rivalries start.
Because these two offenses seem to go after each other. It's never a defensive masterclass. It's always just offenses lighting it up.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this game fun to watch. And anytime these two teams meet up, like last year, they were battling for a spot in the playoffs. The Seahawks were responsible for knocking the Lions out. And this may not be an in-division matchup, but that is how modern day rivalries get started. So imagine if the Lions come in with that chip on their shoulder and meet the Seahawks in the playoffs. I think
that'd be crazy.
It's going to be a really fun matchup. Just somebody bring the defense at some point. They're going to have to figure it out, but we'll see. The Seahawks will host the Carolina Panthers in week 3. And like we stated before, the Lions will host the Falcons. Our next game we have is the Chargers and the Titans. This is a big win for the Titans in overtime, as they were on an 8-game losing streak, and a walk-off field goal kicking it in. Nick Folk, he's done it time and time again over his lengthy career, and just another game winner under his belt. I assume that shaking of the head was just for what is it going to take for the Chargers to get one of these close ones?
What are the Chargers?
What are the Chargers? That's an excellent question.
I don't know at this point. I don't even know if I can call them a good football team anymore, because they constantly do just enough to be close, but they cannot close games. They just can't do it.
They should be brilliant on paper, but when you actually get into these situations, you just come up short every single time. And if you don't actually win football games when it matters, are you a really good football team?
Yeah, can you be considered one of the upper echelon of AFC teams if you can't finish close games? Because you're going to face a lot of close games, especially if you want to make the playoffs with all those talented teams. You're not going to blow out teams. You're going to be playing close games, and how do you finish them? For the Chargers, it absolutely hurt them, obviously, not to have Eckler in this game, because they did not get the run game going nearly as much as they did in week 1.
You love you some Eckler.
Exactly. He's, one of my favorite running backs, not only to draft in fantasy football, but also just to watch. I think he's very entertaining to watch. But they really had nothing going in the run game, and that forced them to be very one-dimensional. Now, granted, they still did, very well in the passing game, but it definitely makes them a lot tougher to find, that consistent success. I was more.
Mike Williams showed up.
Yes, he did. I'm waiting to see, is there going to be a point in the season where they try to get Quentin Johnston more involved, or they just kind of keep him in that sort of in the shadows a bit? sort of that 1 to 3 reception range. But I was more disappointed in the fact that they really didn't feel like they had much against the Titans offense, which kind of feels weird because the Titans offense is just not that good. And they made Ryan Tannehill look palpable when Ryan Tannehill has not looked particularly palpable lately, especially allowing him to go 20 for 24. He played a very efficient passing game, only passing for
that's not Ryan
246.
Tannehill's game.
But it's not.
I mean, it's not particularly flashy. The Titans don't put up absurd numbers offensively. I guess the 20 for 24 is like the biggest number that'll like
part of the
pop
reason
out
why
at
the
you.
Titans. Part of the reason that the Titans don't put up a ton of points on a lot of teams is because they run the ball so much. You end up starting to limiting the amount of possessions just by grinding the clock out when you run Derrick Henry 25 times.
I mean, that's a Mike Vrabel coach team, though. They're gritty, they're grimy, they're going to run the ball down your throat. And I mean, when you have a 2,000-yard rusher in your backfield that still has enough tread on the tires to take the ball 25 times and get decent yardage and punch his way into the end zone, why the heck not? Just feed the guy. They still have questions at quarterback because like we were surprised.
Still not looking great
that Ryan Tannehill played so well. You're right. Still doesn't look great. Is it just a placeholder? I feel like those questions are going to continue to be asked until Ryan Tannehill shows us something similar to the season where he replaced Marcus Mariota and
or if he completely falls off the map and then the decision becomes obvious.
Yeah, well, then the question gets answered for us where it's move on. But, again, it's the Titans. They really are who we thought they were, just kind of a team kind of standing on the edge.
This game felt much more about the Chargers losing it than the Titans winning it.
I agree.
And we've said that, about some of these games, but this is a game that, the Chargers have to come
Charger game recently hasn't been
about the Chargers losing rather than the other team winning, because the Chargers
such a common theme with them. Like even find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. Yeah. It's, well, you know what? The 0-2 Chargers go to Minnesota to play the 0-2 Vikings. Somebody's got to win. And the Titans are going to the dog pound to take on the Browns. And if you want to speak of games that weren't pretty, look no further than Kansas City and Jacksonville. We expected a lot more offense. Where did the offense go? We have no idea. The Chiefs won 17-9. And I guess a lot of frustration for the Jaguars because it's the third time they lost to the Chiefs in 10 months. And the Jaguars are trying to take that next step. They're trying to get there, but the Chiefs are just kind of that team where you just kind of like smash your head against the wall and you're just trying to break through. They can't really do it. But again, neither team played particularly well on offense. Mahomes did just enough. It certainly helped having Travis Kelce back, not at full strength, but enough to make a difference.
Right.
Scored a touchdown.
Him in the end zone. He's still Travis Kelce. He's still going to garner a lot of attention, regardless of whether or not he goes for 120 yards or something crazy like that. It's weird to watch the Chiefs put up 17 points when Mahomes passes. And when Mahomes passes for 300 plus, and Pacheco and Mahomes combined for 100 yards on the ground. So they had over 400 yards of offense and only put up 17 points. So that felt a little weird, but credit to the Jaguars, for doing enough to limit a decent amount of their passing game. They didn't let Kelce, go off on them.
Yeah, I got to stop you there. I don't think the Jaguars care. Yeah, at this point.
Well, no.
At this point,
don't. They want to win the game.
Like, keeping it close isn't good enough. The Jaguars know they can keep it close. They've done that before, twice actually, and make it a third time. But what I'm saying is, I give screw that. They want to win.
I give their defense credit for doing enough to limit the Chiefs to keep themselves in the game. I'm more disappointed in the offense and the fact that Christian Kirk had a big bounce back game. They needed more out of ETN though. ETN was very quiet this game after having the big week one, and they needed more out of the run game if they were going to have an actual chance of winning this game.
I agree. Only 40 rushing yards for Travis Etienne. That was a little strange. Trevor Lawrence is using Calvin Ridley as his safety blanket, although in this matchup it didn't really work. Andy Reid and and Steve Spagnuolo and
They
the
were not
defense
safe.
prepared for it. 8 targets, 2 catches, 32 yards.
They're still trying to throw it to
Zay
him, but they just did a good
Jones
job of defending
was
him.
nowhere to be found. I think we kind of see that rotation of, like 2 guys in, 1 guy out. Like last week, it was Ridley and Zay Jones. This week, it was Ridley and Christian Kirk. And
even though Ridley didn't get the receptions, he was the one that was getting all of those targets there. So
it's the
I
target
truly
share
do believe that target
for.
share is going to be that two in, 1 out, and we'll probably keep seeing it throughout the year.
And whether it works for the Jaguars, it's to be determined. I mean, silver lining, I guess, you're hanging with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are still the class of the AFC, whether you like it or not, because they haven't fallen off that cliff to prove us that they're not. So, until they prove us otherwise, we're going to still consider the Chiefs the top team to beat in the AFC. And
Jaguars definitely just have to be disappointed that they didn't get more out of that passing game, though, because the Chiefs aren't a team that you think of, a lockdown passing defense per se.
I mean, although the Chiefs defense has been a lot better as of late,
for sure, but they're still exploitable in certain ways, especially with a receiving core like the Jaguars. They should have done better.
I mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but if the Chiefs want to take out their anger, they certainly have an opportunity against the NFC North punching bags and the Chicago Bears. And the Jaguars will look for sweet, sweet revenge against CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. The next game we're going to cover is an AFC South showdown between the Colts and the Texans. The Colts won that game 31-20, but the standouts were both rookie quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson played well, ran for 2 touchdowns until he was brutally concussed, which that should be a lesson to him. Slide, young blood. Or you're
but he was going in the end zone. You can't really slide into the end zone, but
either way, I think
he needs to learn how to protect himself a lot better.
Yeah,
because you've now seen 2 straight weeks where he has to leave the game, at least momentarily. For the first week, it was just at the end of the game, but we'll see how bad that concussion was. It wasn't really as much from the hit as it was from his head recoiling on the ground after he landed on his back. But he looked solid when he was in. He looks electric on the ground.
Absolutely.
I'm starting to see flashes, not
which is what you want. Which is what you want. But
flashes of young Cam Newton, just because of his stature and the way that he plays. I think he has a bit more of an arm than Cam Newton ever really did. But
it's not a bad comp. Cam won MVP.
That is what I'm seeing. But we'll see, if he's able to play next week, or if that concussion will keep him out. But Gardner Minshew, he came in and he stepped up.
Gardner Minshew deserves to start somewhere. He's a starting caliber quarterback in this league. I don't know how many times he has to prove
19 for 23.
Look, if he has to prove it in Jacksonville, fine. If he has to prove it in Philadelphia, fine. If he has to go to the Colts with Shane Steichen and prove it, fine. Just give Gardner Minshew a shot. There are teams out there that could use Gardner Minshew. The Cardinals make an offer for Gardner Minshew. I'm sure he'd help them. The Bears, because Gardner Minshew, you know what? I think if Gardner Minshew was traded to Chicago, maybe another Nick Foles situation, but that's neither here nor there. The point is Gardner Minshew should start somewhere. And on the other side,
he looks good.
CJ Stroud also looked excellent, even though he threw the ball 47 times, 384 yards and 2 touchdowns.
They're asking a lot of him, but he stepped up pretty well.
Well, he delivered. And he got really good days out of 3 of his receivers. Nico Collins, Robert Woods, and Tank Dell all had really good days. Nico Collins being the star and emerging as that wide receiver 1 with 146 yards and a touchdown. Tank Dell also got into the end zone. So it's nice to see the Texans at least kind of forming some semblance of offense. You're still waiting for Dameon Pierce to get going. That's not quite happening.
Their offensive line was decimated in this game, and it showed. Colts defensive line feasted all game in terms of getting to the quarterback, in terms of stopping the run. So I can see why they didn't have success in this one in the run game, and just protecting CJ Stroud in general. We'll see if that improves significantly. I think obviously getting your guys back is important in terms of injury. I think Laramie Tunsil was out, which was obviously a big blow to them with his caliber at the offensive line. But I think all things considered, there was more bright spots out of this Texans team than I expected, given knowing what
Yeah, but
we
you
knew
expected them
coming
to be
in.
terrible. Like
Yes,
you
but
expected
I'm
them
just
to be
saying
gutter trash bad.
this if we tunnel vision on this game alone, knowing the fact that their offensive line was decimated coming in, knowing that CJ
Sure.
Stroud didn't look, magical in week 1, there was a lot of bright spots against this Colts team, putting up 20 points, but also the Colts just played very well.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And the Colts and the Texans both going on the road to Baltimore and Jacksonville, respectively. But now let's take a trip out west to Los Angeles as the Rams fell to the 49ers by 7 points. Covered the spread, though, 23-30. Puka Nacua, and I'm finally getting his name right. It's not Puka Nacua. It's Puka Nacua. I need to put some more respect on his name by actually learning how to pronounce it correctly because guy is shattering NFL records. He is, you know what?
Wow.
We thought Cooper Kupp was going down and, that was it. No, just this 5th round rookie coming in and setting a record for most receptions by a rookie in a single game and most receptions in his first 2 games in NFL history.
Mind you, they also ran with him 2 times just for fun.
Yeah, just cause,
just because they can.
Only 25 receptions on 35 targets for his first 2 games. No big deal. Oh, and
what a way to introduce yourself to the league.
Yeah, and also Kyren Williams is really, really good. A surprise deactivation from Cam Akers doesn't matter because Kyren can step right in and
he wasn't super efficient, but he did enough to, in different spots of the game.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Scored 2 touchdowns, found the end zone twice, one on the ground, one in the air, and Matthew Stafford is slanging that thing. 55
they better be careful with those 55 pass attempts that they don't hurt his elbow again.
Well, I think his elbow feels fine if he's willing to pass it that much. I think he's doing enough passing for all of the time he missed last year. But
yeah, he's trying to make up for lost time.
Absolutely. The Rams look a lot better than we expected. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The impact 100%. That Matthew Stafford has at this age, I think is still really healthy. Impressive. And
it's a similar situation to what you saw with Rodgers and the Packers in terms of trying to play through an injury on like the hand or throwing arm, where you start thinking a guy's tailing off, and that really may not be the case. They're just trying to play through a nagging injury that really does hinder their ability to play to their truest capability.
Well, these veterans don't miss any time. Like, you got to remember, Aaron Rodgers sat behind the ultimate Iron Man in Brett Favre, and Matthew Stafford spent so many years in Detroit that if he went down, they were screwed up the creek without a paddle. So, like, those 2 guys in particular are guys that know toughness.
He ain't saying out.
Absolutely. But the 49ers on Thursday Night Football will host the Giants, and the Rams get a primetime game Monday Night Football to go to Cincinnati and play the Bengals. Out in the desert, the Giants with a massive, massive comeback down 28-7, absolutely storm back 24 unanswered points, and they completed the comeback 31-28. In the first half,
this game hurt my brain.
We were saying, "Oh, the Giants are bad. The Giants are really, really bad."
I think my exact words over text. My exact words over text to one of my friends are, "The Giants suck," in all caps. And then I looked away, and then I came back, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, okay. They completed the comeback. That's an awesome story and an awesome game. But at what cost?
At what cost?
At what cost? Because Saquon Barkley paid a pretty high price. A high ankle sprain will keep him out for 2 to 3 weeks.
They're saying 3 weeks.
Yeah, that is not a great thing for the Giants because Barkley is their bread and butter. And Daniel Jones threw the ball pretty well, 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception.
In the second half, asterisk.
Well, a football game is 4 quarters, looking at you, Green Bay Packers, so you got to play all of them, but they did well, didn't do well, doesn't matter, came away with the W regardless. But James
They heated up at the exact time that the Cardinals cooled down.
Yeah.
And they took all the momentum and ran with it in the second half.
Yeah. James Conner's pretty much the biggest bright spot for the Cardinals. Again,
one of the only ones.
Yeah. Had a really good day, 23 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Fantasy managers who drafted him are being rewarded nicely.
But also Josh Dobbs he doesn't look terrible.
Dude, Josh Dobbs is a dog that thinks
honest.
he's a cat. He's a backup that thinks he's a starter. Okay, that's like the Josh
He
Dobbs
didn't
way.
look terrible, which is what's been interesting to me these 2 weeks. I mean, 228 through the air, but he also, he took off on the ground. He's faster than I thought.
Yeah,
That's honestly,
he
I
can
saw him
move.
take off. I'm like, he's got some
And
speed
he bowled
to him
over somebody for a
to
rushing
get into the end
touchdown.
zone.
That was a big
Yeah.
boy run. That was a big boy run for Josh Dobbs. But
Yeah,
hey,
with the
that's
Cardinals,
the
they
confidence that
just-
you need in a quarterback. Josh Dobbs
for
is
sure.
like, he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go out and sling it. It's Josh Dobbs
what does he have
time,
to lose?
baby.
What does
His
he have to
job.
lose? I mean, this is going to be one of but this
His
is one
job.
of his only opportunities.
That's true.
He's not going to get another opportunity somewhere else where he can be a starter. So
Gotta play
while
like
he's
your
got
life's
this
on the line.
time, yeah, you have to. So I think for the Cardinals, I mean, to put up 28 points, great. They just don't really have enough pieces, so it feels, to put together a full, complete, good game of football.
Look, this is the existence of the
they couldn't
Arizona
finish.
Cardinals, man. This is what they are, and well, you know
They
what? God
thrive
bless
on
them.
inconsistency.
Well, guess what? They have their own pick and the Texans pick in next year's draft. So, but don't tell the
Wouldn't have hurt 'em
Cardinals that they're
to lose
playing to
some games.
lose. No, it wouldn't. But don't tell them
Hurts
that.
the fans though.
Yeah. The Giants, as we stated previously, Thursday Night Football at San Francisco. The Cardinals get a tough task at home against the red-hot Dallas Cowboys. And speaking of those Cowboys, how about them? 30-10 in a victory over the Jets where it wasn't particularly close. The story with the Cowboys is that defense. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers, but Zach Wilson did not look good. 3 interceptions on the day. No. However,
Be hopeful, but
would anybody else have done better?
No, I don't think there would be many quarterbacks that would have had that much more of a successful day. Just because of the fact that yes, this Cowboys defense is just that legit. Obviously it hurt the Jets significantly to not get anything going in the run game, but I think that's more of a factor of just how good the Cowboys defense.
That's a nice way of putting it. Because dude, Breece Hall on Twitter, a tweet that later got deleted, 4 footballs, 1 for every single touch he got. So I think he's about as puzzled as everybody else, even if the game script didn't quite call for it. I think what's impressive on the other side is how they were able to throw the ball 38 times and have Dak Prescott play as well as he did, but also let Tony Pollard get 25 touches on the ground.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb had the ball a lot.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb also had a monster day, 11 receptions on 13 targets for 143 yards. And Dallas fans are starting to get real insufferable right about now. I'm not looking forward to it.
I got to be honest, this happens every year. They win a couple of games and
Does
we're
it?
back.
Does it?
There's always a time where Dallas fans, they get a couple of wins in a row. And when Dallas wins, they always seem to win in super convincing fashion. But then when they lose, it's like, geez, really?
Yeah, but have they looked overall that good on both sides of the ball? I think that's the difference, because
they look better than they have in the past, but I refuse to consider them as legit contenders until I see consistency.
True, and we're only 2 weeks in, so remain to be seen.
You see a lot of 2-0 teams right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Cowboys have a really good chance to move to 3-0 against the Cardinals, and the Jets will go. The Jets will go play the Patriots in an AFC East mashup. The next game we got probably the most exciting late game. Well, exciting being
exciting as you can get.
That's
with
a relative
Washington
term.
Commanders and Denver Broncos.
The fact that it
Let's
was
put this into perspective.
The fact that it was a shootout and the last 5 seconds of game time were entertaining. Neither team played particularly well, and neither team deserved to win.
They still both put up 30+ points.
I will give credit where credit is due. Sam Howell carried them back, showed a lot of poise, played very impressive football. But my God, that final sequence, I don't know how either one of those plays happened.
Both teams felt like they were asking to lose in different ways.
I'm asking a few questions. Who is Brandon Johnson? Who is Julian McLaughlin?
Isn't it Brandon Johnston? I don't even think, I literally, it was the first time I ever read his name. No, it is Johnson. Never mind. I just can't read it.
Yeah. Tim, where are your glasses? Go get your glasses, my boy. Are you Batman?
No.
Oh, you know what? That would be really cool if you were Batman. But then again, if you were Batman, you wouldn't tell us. Back to the game. How did that Hail Mary happen? And why was there no flag thrown on Ben St. Juste for defensive pass interference? Hell of a time to swallow your whistle.
Yeah, no, and that was 100% a DPI in my mind. I mean, it was pretty clear as day to pretty much everyone except for the guys in white and black. But there was a lot of
not like the Broncos deserved to win anyway.
No, they didn't.
I think also Russell. I think it's damning that Russell Wilson looked as good as he did. 308 yards and 3 touchdowns.
But also 18 for 32. He wasn't even efficient and he still threw for 300 yards. Also, Marvin Mims.
Yes, the point. Well, I think we kind of knew who Marvin Mims was before this, but yeah.
I mean, yes, but the fact that he went 2 for 113 yards.
I mean, a post and a go that just torched the Washington Commanders secondary, which we
knew the Commanders secondary
still isn't good. Still isn't good.
Yeah,
it
showed.
Yeah, letting receivers that the general public hasn't heard of before torch them, I think is something that they need to get fixed. But outside of Russell Wilson scrambling,
the Broncos really couldn't get much going on the ground either. I mean, they got 44 yards. It was an entertaining game. Williams, but
it was a very entertaining game, and that's all I have to say about that. Denver is still looking to give Sean Payton his first win as coach, and they're going to South Beach to play the Dolphins. And the 2-0 Commanders, which is interesting to say, might not be 2-0 for much longer unless they somehow put together.
Based on my prediction, they should lose the next 15.
Oh dear God, that's right. You had them at 2-15. Yikes!
Wouldn't that start 2-0?
Yeah. Dear.
Hey, it's why you play the game.
That's true. Who knows? The Commanders could go on a historic losing streak and lose their next 15 games. Probably not. I'm not banking on it. But they play the Bears at some point. It is fun to think about, though. We'll move on to the Sunday night game where the Miami Dolphins won the battle of the coaches against the New England Patriots 24-17. It really was just the battle of the masterminds. We saw some really creative things from Mike McDaniels. We saw some really creative things from Bill Belichick, especially on that blocked field goal. I didn't know you could get a running start.
I mean, there's nothing in the rules that I would think that you couldn't. You obviously just don't see a lot of people.
Well, nobody's ever done it. So how will we know? And it's only the kind of thing that Bill Belichick can think of.
Because you have to be able to time that snap that well.
Yeah. But I mean,
they did it. They did it perfectly.
Yes, they did. On the offensive side for the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert ran wild. Hey. I wonder where we've seen that story before. Choo-choo express like the train team in college. 18 carries, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Maybe he looked like the speedster Mostert that we've come to know in the past when he's not hurt for 3/4 of the year.
Maybe Raheem Mostert could have brought his choo-choo magic to Ross Aid against Syracuse, because
that's a whole nother story that is not the NFL.
Nope. But so
and also Raheem Mostert has not played at Purdue in 9 years. He last played in 2014.
Moral support.
They can use whatever help they can get.
Look, Purdue football is a conversation for another day that if you really want to see, I'm sure, Tim, you are more than happy to go on an hour-long rant about Purdue football. But
I got plenty to talk about.
Regardless, New England has become an aerial team because Mac Jones, again, throwing the ball over 40 times.
I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know either. And
especially when they have a running back tandem that they're both like trying to use, but they're just not choosing to not use them very much. Now, in general, again, you got to talk about
right.
game scripts.
Ezekiel Elliott is in that Patriots backfield. Can't forget
about
him.
He's there. They just only chose to give it to him 5 times.
Look, old wash, whatever you want to say about Ezekiel Elliott. I just have to remind
myself. I just don't really understand the making the effort to go get him when you're not going to use him, because then you're just paying dead money.
Yeah,
But
that's
that's
another.
just me.
I
It is
just think the
interesting
weirdest,
to.
yeah, the weirdest thing is Mac Jones and is the aerial attack with Hunter
Yeah.
Henry and Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker and not even Juju Smith-Schuster, who, if you want to go like talk about a guy who, you paid a lot of money to go get and you're not using,
Yeah.
it's Juju. But then again, they say his knee could explode at any moment and his Patriots
Yeah,
tenure has kind of
how
been gutter
how
trash.
electric or how healthy is he actually right now? It's kind of hard
Ain't
to tell.
ain't that the $1 million
Also, does
question?
Bill Belichick or the Patriots organization in general just have a thing with getting more than one of a position that they don't really need? Because you've got Ramondre and Zeke, and you also have Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry.
You know what? Two is better than one, I think. Look,
And Tua
man,
is
I
better
don't
than
know.
them.
Bill Belichick is also the GM of that team, but so he's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's the greatest coach of all time, and we're not gonna question it. We have two more games to get through, starting with the first Monday night
Welcome to
game.
Monday Night Football.
Oh yeah, the Saints and the Panthers. The Saints defense holding strong in a 20-17 victory. They did a pretty solid job of bottling up Bryce Young. He only threw for 153 yards. And it doesn't matter that Jamal Williams went down because there's a guy by the name of Tony Jones Jr. that ran for 2 scores, and that ended up being the difference. Chris Olave had a pretty solid day, as did Michael Thomas. It's good to see him getting that target
Hey,
share back.
more he completed 2 full weeks of football without going down. I
Woohoo!
view that as a win.
I do too. I think it's
Especially since I drafted him in fantasy.
this isn't about big jeans. Was that 5
But
bigs
it
or
can
was
be
that 6? I don't know. I can't tell. Either way, those jeans
big
are
enough.
really, really big. I don't really think there's much to say about this game other than it was a classic NFC South showdown. An in division game that doesn't quite look pretty. It's not really that appealing to the eye, not that high scoring, but
I mean,
one team
Saints
tends to get
finding a
the
way
job
to win
done.
though.
Exactly. And the Saints go 2-0. Will be 2-1 when they travel to Green Bay to play the future Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packers and future NFL MVP Jordan Love. But, we'll be recapping that game next week. The Carolina Panthers still searching for their first win as they travel to Seattle. Tim, you have something else to say?
Only other thing I was going to say is I am interested going forward to see what role Rashid Shaheed is going to have in this offense because you're starting to see him be a more consistent receiver. And I'm curious to see how they'll try to use him because all of a sudden now you've got 3 receivers on that Saints roster that they're really trying to split targets pretty, not necessarily evenly, but significantly throughout. So
they're peppering
I don't
it
know.
around.
It'll be interesting to watch.
And what happens when Alvin Kamara comes back because he's only suspended for 1 more game.
Yeah.
How that's going to play out, TBD. And the final Monday night game, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why? Why do the
I'm
fantasy?
so tired of this.
Not the fantasy football, just the football gods in general forsake us.
Yeah.
So last week they
I'm
took Aaron Rodgers from us, and Nick Chubb is confirmed out for the season after that.
All you had to do was see that video and you could tell he's done for. I'm worried about his career.
One of my friends decided not to text me that Nick Chubb got hurt, but call me and say, hey, watch the video. And when I ask him how bad it is, he's like, just go watch it. Hey,
I regret watching it.
Thanks. I do. Didn't need to see that.
I don't like having that image in my head. I feel absolutely horrible for Nick Chubb. If I'm not mistaken, from what I've heard and or seen, I believe that was the leg that he got sort of reconstructed during his time at Georgia.
Yeah, they're talking about his long-term career. Forget the rest of the season. They're talking about his career.
Yeah. I'm much more worried for that right now because forget he's a great player.
Forget the end results of the game. Steelers won by 4 points with 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, highlight was the Steelers defense for sure. But
TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, an excellent duo, deserve all their flowers. Some things are just bigger than football. And it's not great when you see these stars get hurt on Monday Night Football.
I mean, it's not seeing any guys go down for the season like that, but it especially hurts the fan experience. It hurts the NFL in general when you lose stars like this. This wasn't, like a field based injury we've seen in some of these more recent ones. This was just a gruesome hit where, leg got caught in the wrong place in the wrong time, but it really hurts to watch. The Browns don't got much left. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
When you lose Nick Chubb, they don't have a ton left on their roster to be excited about. But I'm way more worried about what is Nick Chubb's future in football, because the game is more fun when you have electric guys like that on the field.
Absolutely. The game is absolutely more fun when Nick Chubb is on the field. Granted, Jerome Ford ran for 106 yards.
He stepped up.
Yeah. You need next man up. And I guess just in the football sense, what is this Cleveland offense looking like? Because Deshaun Watson is still struggling. On the other side, what in the world do the Steelers do on offense? Because they're still ailing. They can't rely on their defense to score 14 points for them all the time.
15 for 30 out of Kenny Pickett is not what the Steelers are looking for in terms of continued progression out of Pickett.
I mean, you and I are still thinking bigger picture. The long-term health of Nick Chubb, I think, far overshadows anything that could have happened in this game, and we wish all the best to him.
Big game for George Pickens, though. Good for him. I gotta mention that.
Oh, of course, 127 yards for him. Life goes on. The Steelers will travel to Vegas to play the Raiders, and the Browns will play Week 3 at home against the Titans. But that's all we got for our Week 2 NFL recap. We're going to keep going through, as well as bringing you the AFC West and NFC West preview. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't watched our other stuff, we have tons of content for you available on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So if you want more from us, let us know. And until next time, we out.
Man, I hate ending these games talking about injuries.
Yeah, me too, man.